To start off this teardown, I would like to apologize to Apple. Apple just published full, complete, extremely detailed repair guides for all of their recent smartphones dating back to the iPhone 12. And due to this extremely generous and selfless move, I would like to retract every mean thing I've ever said about iPhones. This could just be, of course, Apple's attempt to put me out of a job, but since this move benefits all of humanity and helps keep the 200 million iPhones sold every year alive for longer, I'm all for it, and it actually makes my job easier. On behalf of civilization as a whole, thank you, Apple. Rumor on the street is they've also encased their battery in metal this year, so we're gonna have to pop one open and take a peek for ourselves, even though the repair guide is already online. Unfortunately though, this larger 16 Pro Max does not have that metal encased battery, which is a bummer. It does have a sweet 25-watt coil of 100% recycled copper wireless windings, still attached to the back glass, which are fun to look at, but not near as cool as a metal battery. So I guess now we gotta go buy a regular-sized iPhone 16 Pro with my Chime debit card. Huge thanks to my friends over at Chime for temporarily spotting me the funds for this purchase. See, with an activated Chime debit card and direct deposit set up to your Chime checking account, Chime will spot you up to $200 if you ever accidentally exceed your account balance, and Chime does not charge any fees or interest for using this Spot Me feature. The next direct deposit just gets applied to the negative balance and everyone's square. Chime has spotted its members over $30 billion to date, so you're not alone. There's a reason that Chime is an award-winning banking app, and a lot of that has to do with having no hidden fees or monthly minimums. It's the banking of the future that's 100% mobile and online, while still giving you access to over 50,000 fee-free ATMs. You can make your fall finances a little greener by working towards your financial goals with Chime, and open your account in just 2 minutes at chime.com/jerryrig. That's chime.com/jerryrig. Feels like progress. Obviously, buying a new iPhone 16 Pro just to open it up and see the metal battery isn't super financially intelligent, so I'll be giving this one away to one random subscriber down in the comments once we've had a peek inside. And I'm not gonna lie, it is super weird seeing the steel encapsulated battery just chilling inside an iPhone like this. In my decade of taking apart iPhones, Apple has never done this before. Now, there's a bit of speculation as to why Apple might have done this, one for thermals, which I don't totally agree with, since at least in this Pro model, the battery is still suspended on rubberized adhesive strips, surrounded by air, so that heat still isn't dissipating anywhere. Personally, I think it has more to do with Apple making the legally required modifications to better comply with the new EU regulations. Just like the USB-C port swap last year, the EU is mandating that all smartphones have removable and replaceable batteries by 2027, which I think is an awesome move. So it turns out that Apple might not be as ultra generous as we thought, and they're only providing repair guides because soon they'll legally have to. Either way though, I think it's a good direction to head. Even though the pull tabs don't work good, alcohol does the trick. And it's fun seeing Apple do something new with this 3,582 mAh battery. The battery info isn't written on the back, it's actually etched into the steel housing. Thank you to whoever wins this for letting us take apart your brand new iPhone 16 Pro. Just remember, this one's not water resistant anymore, but the battery is re-adhered and everything's closed up tight. I'm kinda glad that we could be nice to at least one of the phones, since I don't think the 16 Pro Max is gonna survive the rest of this autopsy. Apple's made most of the components inside the two Pro phones the same, minus the battery and screen size obviously. With the two metal internal plates gone, which were held down by 7 tri-point screws, we can pop off the rather abundant amount of ribbon cables, each unplugging like a little Lego. It's always surprising to see how small Apple's motherboard is compared to other smartphones. And if I'm being honest, with pretty much every screw in an iPhone being a different shape and size, this is a rather difficult machine to repair, and definitely not something you want to tackle as a first-timer. At first glance, it does not appear as if the lower loudspeaker has any balls inside, but if we break it open, Apple does indeed have a secret chamber full of balls that help the tiny speaker sound bigger than it actually is, all packed up in there. Near the speaker opening is a vibrant orange rubber gasket, and I think Apple should make the whole phone this color. We also have the Taptic vibrator motor, and if yours hasn't buzzed in a while, sometimes you just gotta be the one to reach out first. There's actually a large improvement on the charging port design this year. Instead of the USB-C port being intertwined and ensnared with signal wires, microphone speakers, and vibrator attachments, all in one massive ribbon conglomerate, this time around the USB-C port is basically all by itself. Great move for repairability. The motherboard comes out next. Once all the standoff screws are removed, the dual stacked motherboard containing all the brains of the iPhone is smaller than a human finger. It's very interesting that here in the USA there is no SIM card slot, but instead of Apple putting something useful in here, like an SD card, they just plopped a black plastic box on top of where the SIM card is for the rest of the world and just left the space wasted. Now, the larger non-metal battery inside of this iPhone 16 Pro Max does have pull tabs. Which are extremely pleasant and mostly work. They are kind of finicky now, and they'll get even harder to use over time. But they're better than nothing, to be sure. No complaints here. The L-shaped battery is 4,685 milliamp hours, and Apple says this battery is made with 95% recycled lithium. People wrongly assume that lithium batteries can't be recycled, but they most definitely can. And this is probably the last time we're going to see a non-metal encased battery in an iPhone. When it comes to build materials, Apple says the exterior of the 16 Pro Max is titanium, attached to a milled inner structure made with 100% recycled aluminum. There's a graphite thermal layer that helps move heat from the motherboard to that aluminum midframe, and this new thermal layout helps improve sustained performance of the hardware by 20%. The triple camera setup is all bound together in a singular metal housing, so the cameras can seamlessly switch between one another. The large 48 megapixel camera does not have any external OIS, nor does the 48 megapixel wide-angle camera, and that 12 megapixel 5x optical zoom telephoto camera also does not have any external optical image stabilization. Apple is again using internal hardware stabilization with a second generation sensor shift style design. If we yoink that metal housing apart, we can see the main camera image sensor with its copper coils on each corner, which balance over the permanent magnets to stabilize the image. The ultra-wide-angle camera does not have any internal stabilization either, but the 5x telephoto also has that same style of sensor shift, albeit much smaller. You'll also notice that the sensor of the telephoto is not positioned directly behind the camera lens. Apple stuck in a glass tetraprism to distance the sensor from the lens, giving us that periscoped zoom telephoto effect. Kinda hard to see on camera, but I'm glad there's smart people out there figuring out how all this works. Finally, the 6.9-inch screen comes off last, or first, depending on what you need repaired. Apple smartly made the screen easily repairable from the front so that none of the back hardware that you just saw needs to be touched at all. Thumbs up for that. You might be like, hey Jerry, if the screen is so easy to replace, why is Apple still charging $379 to do so? And I have no idea. Seems kind of excessive to me. Maybe Apple hasn't changed that much after all. And there you have it, Apple's exterior desert titanium exoskeleton. Pretty much unchanged from last year. Titanium just wrapped around the outside, and I think it's a pretty cool setup. I like that Apple has released consumer repair guides, and they're dabbling in new manufacturing techniques, always keeping things interesting. Make sure you're subscribed for the iPhone content coming up, and thanks a ton for watching. I'll see you around.